Hi everyone, this is Andrew Paul. We're going to get started with our JTFN, Think Outside the Sadaka Box Camp Philanthropy Program 2014 Administrators Orientation Call. It's great that we have so many people on the phone, and we are really excited to continue our partnership with your camps and to continue these teen foundations for this upcoming summer. Teen foundations, as you know, bring teens together to think about their personal and their Jewish values as related to giving. It helps them develop their funding and issue priorities. And they get to go make site visits to nonprofits and then through consensus make a funding decision. So thanks again for taking part in this call. In a minute we're going to introduce ourselves. We have a really great group of camps represented on this second call. While everyone is still sort of entering and unmuted, we're going to do a little brief introduction for the camps that are on the line today. So on your screen now you should see some introduction questions. I will be calling on camps to share the following things. Share your name and your title or your role at camp. We'd love to hear where your camp is located and where you're calling in from today. Your previous experience with Teen Foundation or Teen Philanthropy. The group, unit, or age group that's going to be doing this work in the upcoming summer, and then one thing that you personally are looking forward to this summer, which may or may not be related to Teen Philanthropy. So I would love to first hear from Crane Lake Camp.
Hi, this is Sarah Lowing. I'm the Director of Jewish Life at Crane Lake Camp, which is in West Stockbridge, Massachusetts. I'm sorry, Andrew, what were the other questions?
They should be on your screen.
I don't have them. Oh, there they are. Okay. I am calling from my office at the synagogue in New York City. I'm a Nadiv educator, so I spend half of my time at Temple Shari Tefillah in New York City and half of my time at camp. Last summer was our first summer with the JTFN program, and it was really incredible. So we're going to repeat it in our 8th and 9th grade unit, Chaverim, again because it was so successful last summer. And one other thing that I am looking forward to is our camp is actually getting a brand new dining hall this summer. So it's going to have a lot of awesome implications for programming, and our whole camp will get to eat together, and it is very exciting.
Great. That is exciting. Thanks, Sarah. Can we hear from Camp Ramah, Wisconsin?
Hi, this is Yael Ben-Zadapal calling. I'm the Assistant Director at Ramah, Wisconsin. Our camp is located in Conover, Wisconsin, and today I'm calling from Chicago, which is where our year-round office is. Last year was also our first year with the JTFN program, and we will be repeating it again this year with our Shoah Femurs, who are entering 8th graders. And this summer will be my second year in this role, and so I'm excited to do a job for the second time that will be helpful in terms of getting my feet back on the ground.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you. Can we hear from Camp Solomon Schechter? We have two people on from there.
So hi, my name is David Furman. I'm the Assistant Director of Camp Solomon Schechter. The camp is located in Olympia, Washington, about an hour south of Seattle. Both Jeff and I are calling it today from our office, which is in Seattle. Previous experience at Teen Foundation. So we started last summer, and it was really successful. That was my first experience with Teen Philanthropy in general. This summer, the group units will be doing it. We're actually going to be doing 3 different groups doing it. One of our 5th through 7th graders, one group of our 5th through 7th graders, and 2 groups in our 8th through 10th graders. And one thing I'm most looking forward to this summer is finally having nice weather.
Great, thanks. Jeff, anything to add?
Jeff Nobby. I'm the Development Director for Camp Solomon Schechter. And the one thing I'm looking forward to this summer is seeing the growth in our campers when they go through this program. Last year it just amazed me what the program accomplished with the kids that we worked with.
Wonderful. Thank you. Can we hear now from Eisner Camp?
Yeah, hi, this is Laura Gervis. I have to open up that slide. I am the Senior Assistant Director at Eisner Camp, and I also oversee the Jewish education programs at camp. My Eisner Camp is in Great Barrington, Massachusetts. I'm calling in today from sunny Newton, Massachusetts. Last summer was our first summer, and it went quite well. As I think I explained to Andrew, we didn't do a lot of things correctly, and still it went quite well. And what I'm looking forward to this summer is actually doing things in a much more timely fashion so that we get even better results for our campers. And the group that did it last summer were the rising 10th graders, and they're going to do it again. And that's it. Looking forward to being a part of this again.
Great. Thanks, Laura. Who do we have from Camp Kalsman here today?
This is Sarah. So I have to open this slide back up so I can find it. Sorry. So this is Sarah Moody. I am the Assistant Director at Camp Kalsman. We are in Arlington, Washington. No, we did not get destroyed by the landslide. We were quite far from there. And I'm calling in from our office in Bellevue. Rachel is also on the line from Bellevue. We did the Jewish Teen Funders Network last year as well, with kind of varying success. Some parts of it were really great. I think the kids really enjoyed the experience, but I'm not sure they took away from it all that we had wanted them to, so I'm really looking forward to seeing them embrace it in a different way with a different person running it this summer. Our counselors in training participate in the program for us. And one thing I'm looking forward to this summer is my first summer as the Assistant Director.
Great. Thank you so much, Sarah. And do we have anyone else on the line that I haven't gotten to yet?
Alana.
Hi. Oh, yes, Alana. Hi. Go ahead.
So I'm Alana. I am the, during the year, Director of Teen Services and Special Needs at the Marks JCH of Bensonhurst. And during camp, I'm the Camp Director for Camp Yachad, our 12-day overnight camp for Russian-speaking Jewish teens. The teens come from Brooklyn, but our campgrounds are in Pennsylvania. Calling from Brooklyn today, and last summer we did this program with our 10th graders, started it during the day camp and transitioned it into our overnight camp where they did most of it happened in our overnight camp, and then I'll be with our 10th graders again, and I'm looking forward to my new role in camp this summer.
Wonderful. Really glad you're on the call today. Thanks so much. Do we have anyone else we didn't hear from yet? Do we hear from Rachel, also from Kalsman? Rachel Baer?
Yeah, I'm here. I second everything that Sarah said. I'm also in Bellevue on the other side of the office.
Great, thank you. Okay, well, we may have some more people join us during the call. If we see other people pop in, we may take a second to introduce them, but I want to thank everybody for sharing. And then Naomi and I also really share quickly a little bit about our camp experience, which we both have. So again, I'm Andrew Paul. I work here at the Jewish Teen Funders Network. We're calling today from our offices in New York City, and if you're ever in New York City, we invite you to stop on by. Naomi and I both work with the 133 Jewish Teen Philanthropy programs that exist across North America in a variety of capacities. And we work within those, I guess, ages is all the way from 13 all the way through 18 years old. And we're both really looking forward to this summer and a lot of great camps doing this program. I personally spent many summers at URJ Camp Kalsman and then also at the URJ Kutz Camp, which are both doing this program. So excited to be working with lots of camps. Naomi?
Great. So I am also calling in from New York today, across the office from Andrew. I have 3 years of experience with Teen Foundations at JTFN, and I was a camperma in the Berkshires, camper and staff member. I still miss it when summer comes, so I'm not looking forward to not being at camp this summer, but I am looking especially forward to the fact that JTFN is hosting a Jewish Teen Philanthropy Summit in New York, June 9th to 10th. It's one of the options for your staff to get trained if they're not already at camp, especially for East Coasters. So we hope they'll consider joining us for that. That's
Great.
all.
Thanks, Naomi. Here's what we're going to be doing on today's orientation. We're going to begin with a timeline for your Team Foundation. As the administrator of this program, what you need to be thinking about before the summer, during the summer, and after the summer. We're going to be talking about selecting your summer educator and what makes for a great summer educator. We're going to be reviewing sort of the program goals of the Teen Foundation and then some suggestions for scheduling this program into your camp calendar, which is a really important aspect to consider before the summer begins. We're going to talk a little bit about notes on grant making and some tips for working with nonprofits in your community. And then we're going to talk about fundraising and ways to raise your grant making pool. We're going to be covering a lot of this information also with the summer educator during their trainings, which we'll talk more about. But a lot of this information is tailored directly towards you in your role as the overseer and administrator. We're also going to be hearing from a couple of camp directors, and as Naomi said, there will be polls to participate in and opportunities to ask questions. I also want to say that during the call you can mute yourself by pressing *6, and then if you want to speak and add in, you can unmute yourself by pressing *7. And that was just posted in the chat on the bottom left.
So before we jump in, I just want to take a moment to share some really encouraging statistics from last summer's evaluation that get to the core of why we do this work. I also want to say a big thank you to those of you who participated in last summer's evaluation, which of course led to us being able to share these results. So last summer we worked with 39 camps, over 1,100 campers, who collectively awarded over $47,000 in grants to nonprofit organizations. And I want to highlight two of the other results that we learned. We heard that 90% of camp directors, that's many of you, felt that the program had a positive effect on the overall camp experience. And we also learned that 81% of campers felt that the program increased their connection to their Jewish values, such as tikkun olam, tzedakah, and philanthropy. So we feel very good about those results, and we wanted to share them with you.
Wonderful. We're going to be looking on this slide and the next two slides at the administrator's timeline. This information is also found in the overview document that you downloaded from our website. This will outline, again, what you and the summer educator need to accomplish and approximately by when. The specific month we listed here may vary depending on when your camp meets and when session starts and when your staff is actually there and whether your camp starts in the earlier half of the summer or the later half of the summer. But this is pretty much the order of things that need to get done. Again, today you are on the orientation calls. You can cross that off. Yesterday you received grant agreements from me on behalf of the Jewish Funders Network and your camp. Those should be signed and returned by April 30th. As the administrator, you need to think about selecting the summer educator. Several camps have already decided who's going to be running this program on the ground with your teens, and some camps I think are still figuring it out. This call will help you sort of identify the great person to do that work. Then they can sign up for one of 4 training options at jtfn.org/camp training. We'll talk more about training. In a minute, the summer educator will attend that training in May or June. The administrator will work with the summer educator to finalize the calendar for this program and schedule it within their camp calendar. In May, also, the summer educator will begin to contact local nonprofits. And then in May, JTFN will send out Jewish national and international grant proposals. Both of those things we will talk a little bit about further on in this presentation. Coming into June, when the staff arrives, the summer educator should train and inform other summer staff that are going to be involved in this program in whatever capacity they're involved, whether it's counseling staff helping to facilitate some of the activities or other co-education staff, informing other staff that need to be involved. And then the summer educator will start to lead the Teen Foundation, then confirm the site visits to local nonprofits, and have consultations with us at JTFN. We heard last summer that some camps felt more support and more contact would have been great from JTFN with the summer educator, so we're going to really try to step that up for this upcoming summer to provide support, to troubleshoot, to share some information about what other camps are doing that might be helpful. So we're really looking to connect with your summer educator. And again, we'll cover this in the training. Further on in the summer, in July, the summer educator will arrange transportation with the site visits. Often an administrator will have a hand in that. And then take the teens on the site visits, write blog post or an article, and then continue to have a consultation with JTFN as the process wraps up. And then at the end of the Teen Foundation, the teens decide where to award grants. Then as the summer comes to a close, the summer educator informs all nonprofits of their grant status, whether they did or did not receive a grant from their camp's Teen Foundation. Summer educator writes sort of an end of Teen Foundation blog post summarizing the results, and then the administrator will issue the grant checks to the nonprofits, making a copy of the check to JTFN. This is similar to the process from last summer for those of you who worked with us last summer. JTFN in September will reach out to your summer educator and have a debrief phone call with them. Then also like last summer, the administrator will complete an evaluation and grant report by September 19th. And once all those are received, JTFN will send the $1,000 grant check back to the camp once we have your copies of checks and your evaluation. Again, this is similar to last summer. So I know that this was really quick. Resources about this timeline will be sent after this call in a nice, handy, easy to check off checklist. That should help you as the administrator move forward with this program. We're going to move on now to talking about Summer Educator. I don't believe that Jared was able to make the call today, but we're going to move on. Jared would have talked about their Summer Educator who's coming back, because selecting the right Summer Educator and determining who's going to serve as a Summer Educator is a really key part of this program. There's no one position on camp that is best to facilitate the Teen Foundation, and we sort of leave it up to you as the administrators to make this decision, because ultimately you know your staff best. So we like to think of some examples of positions that might be running this program, or a unit or division head or the CIT director, as many camps I know are running it with their CITs. Either a program director, someone in the sort of programming staff department. Some camps have used their development staff or a development summer specialist to help with this, and then a Jewish education specialist might also be someone to help facilitate. And we like to say that there are various skills that really make for an ideal summer educator for this program. And you can see there in this triple Venn diagram is knowledge of Jewish texts and values in one corner, skills to facilitate a group of teens and help sort of teens through a learning process in another corner, and then understanding of grant making and nonprofits. So this is sort of the third element that really makes for great summer educators. And if you end up having someone that has two of these skill sets, as sort of represented by the smiling yellow faces, then that's a great person to lead this program. And during our summer trainings, we will help your summer educator identify ideally the two areas that they feel really strong in, and then the third area that they think they could improve on. We just want to take a second to see if anybody else wants to sort of add to this about what they found makes for a great summer educator from the people who led this last summer. So if you do want to share, you can press *7 to unmute yourself. The other thing I will say, if no one has any advice to share on this question, is that another great thing to do is think about bringing in a guest facilitator to join for 1 or 2 sessions. So either if you have someone on the topic of Jewish text that can come in and do that, or if you have a facilitator come in and teach the grant making portions, that's also, we've heard, been very successful at camps. Bringing in someone who really knows a certain area can be really helpful. Has anybody on the phone considered doing this or done this in the past before?
This is Jeff from Camp Solomon Schechter. One of the things that was very successful for us is we asked one of our philanthropists to the organization to come down. She's a woman who makes quite significant grants in the greater Seattle area. And she talked about her foundation and how she makes decisions and what process she goes through at the very end of this after the kids have gone through it once. And it was a very educational experience for the kids, and they saw how their little microcosm actually expands into something where this woman gives out millions of dollars a year. And it really brought home that what they did was actually in line with what happens out in the world.
Wonderful. Great. That's a great example of bringing in outsiders to help this process move forward. That's wonderful, and I think it really sends the message that even at camp, even though their grants are not as large, they are still growing to become philanthropists. So thank you, Jeff, for sharing that great story. So as you think about your summer educator, or if you've already selected who that person is, you can have them sign up for one of these 4 trainings you can see now. 2 of them will be done by webinar on Sunday, May 4th and Thursday, May 15th. As you've probably heard by now, we are also having an in-person training at the Foundation for Jewish Camp's Cornerstone Seminar. I really want to just highlight this, even though I know you've heard about it, because this is a great opportunity for in-person training. So if you personally or someone from your camp at the director level or some of the Cornerstone fellows that may be interacting with the Teen Foundation, if they're going to be there, we encourage them to stay for this training immediately after the Cornerstone Seminar from 11:30 to 2:30 on that Thursday, May 22nd. It's important that we get this information set soon so that we can work with our colleagues at the Foundation for Jewish Camps and their travel agencies to make sure everyone's flights are properly scheduled. And then as Naomi mentioned, we're also having an in-person training immediately following the Jewish Teen Philanthropy Summit here in New York City on June 10th. So more information about that can be found at jtfn.org/summit. We're going to take a quick moment to pause for any questions, because I know we're moving really quickly. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat on the bottom left, and we will get to them at our next little break. And I'm going to turn it over to Naomi to talk about program goals.
Great. So before we move into discussing the schedule, I just want to review the goals of this program. The program teaches basic philanthropic principles and giving with Jewish values, and through that it creates a culture of giving at your camp. It also creates a forum to explore personal values around giving and helps to develop team leadership, teamwork skills, and to teach group decision making. And all of these goals are accomplished through the 8 tasks in the program guide, and we expect them to be completed in 15 hours, not including site visits and transportation. So before, again, we move into the specifics of how you can fit all of those hours and aspects in, I just want to focus for 1 minute on creating a culture of giving at your camp. So we really believe that teens who participate in this program will grow up to give back to the world and to the Jewish community. So we can only assume that if they have a positive experience with your camp, one of the places they may give back to you to is your camp. So I just want to point that out in creating that culture that I know many camps are trying to infuse into your camp and alumni community. So you can see on this slide the program progression through the 8 tasks. Our experience over the last few years working with camps has taught us that 15 program hours is really necessary to cover all of this material adequately and to run a successful program. The beauty of the program, however, is that you can choose to allocate those 15 hours in whatever way works best for your teens and for your camp. So some camps have grouped those hours in 2 to 3 seminar days. Others have devoted 1 hour each day and everything in between. So we really encourage you to help your staff decide before the summer what's going to work best in your setting. I just want to emphasize this point that from time to time we hear that it was difficult to meet the program hours or things kind of got squished into the end of the summer, the last week of camp. So by scheduling this beforehand, just as you schedule other activities that will happen during the course of the summer, you'll be able to avoid that pitfall, really ensuring that your teens have the full experience of this program. So I want to give everybody an opportunity to think a little bit about how you're planning to break down those hours, and just click on one of these options. So do you plan to do it in seminar days, daily meetings, weekly meetings of 2 to 4 times a week? 2 to 4 times a week, or weekly meetings, a combination of these options, or you haven't figured it out yet. So I'm going to give you all a minute to fill that out. And I'm going to ask some people to share. I think we may have gotten all the responses in. So do I have anyone who can share how you're planning on doing it this summer, especially if you are either making a change from last summer or replicating because you've either found challenges to last summer or success in last summer's approach? We'd love to hear why you made the decision to do it this way. And again, you can press *7 to unmute yourself if you're muted.
Hello, this is David from Camp Solomon Schechter. Can you hear me?
David? Yeah.
Okay. So just wasn't sure if I was muted. So what we did last year was we basically turned it into an activity. So they had 1 hour a day, and then we actually scheduled extra hours, both during rest hour and other times like that, for them to meet together as well. Because we wanted to give them a significant period of time to have their meetings, and then we as well had like a full day of site visits and get together and discussion. Our big focus, which is separate from the actual hours, was we wanted to make sure the kids didn't feel like they were missing out by doing it. So we made sure we very intentionally did not schedule during, say, free time or other activities like that. We scheduled it when it was actually like rest hour, when they're all in the cabin. It was actually a benefit to get to go and do JTFN. So it became a real positive versus we didn't want that negative feeling of I'm missing out other camp activities doing.
Great. I like 2 of the points you made in there. Definitely putting this as a positive, like a special thing you get to do. Excuse me. And also, you pointed out specifically site visits. So it can be challenging to get a group of kids out of camp. So I really encourage you, especially on that piece, to decide before the summer when those site visits are going to happen. And when your summer educator contacts the nonprofits, which Andrew's going to get to talking more about in a minute, even making sure from the first contact that they would be available at that time you set aside will really help to make sure that those site visits happen. Thank you, David. Is there anybody else who wants to share their approach? Maybe somebody who decided not to do it as you did it last summer? *7 to unmute.
This is Yael from Camp Vermont, Wisconsin.
Hi.
Hi. We haven't decided yet if we're going to replicate it exactly the way it was last year, but what was nice about how we did it last year is that we worked both in small groups. We have a period every day where there's some Judaic instruction, and so those are smaller groups, and then we also incorporated it into some age group-wide activities in the evening hours. And so I think that gave the kids a chance to explore some of the curricular content in a deep way in the small group settings, but then also bring it back to sort of like this communal experience that they were having on a larger level as well. I think that the balance worked out really nicely for us.
It sounds like you really integrated into more of what they're doing in camp, not just that one class type of time period, which is really nice.
That's right.
Great.
Great. Thanks so much for everyone who shared on that piece. We're going to move on now to talking about grant-making and nonprofits. So in early May or even late April, the summer educator should start to reach out to the local nonprofits. We recommend that a good sort of timeline is 1 month before he or she and the rest of the staff arrives at camp, where they should start to create that request for proposal to send out. Again, the request for proposal is found on the program guide as a great sample that we created for your camps to use. As part of this program, teen foundations must review at least 3 grant proposals from local nonprofits and conduct 2 site visits during the summer. So as the administrator, it's really important that you are making sure your summer educator is following all of these steps, and that you may be involved in some of the arranging of transportation for the site visits. So being aware of when that's going to happen and how is that going to affect the rest of the scheduled program that's going on at camp. So, and also a note about grant making and nonprofits. Soon, in the next couple of months, JTFN will be sending to you and to your summer educator something new that we did not offer camps last year. We're still sort of finalizing the specifics on this piece, but we are going to be providing each camp with 2 or 3 grant proposals that are going to come from nationally or internationally serving Jewish nonprofit organizations. These are in addition to the 3 local grant proposals that your summer educator will solicit and receive. And the 2 off-camp site visits to local nonprofits are still required. So these national and international Jewish nonprofit grant proposals are in addition to what's already set up by your summer educator. And the reason we are doing this for this summer is twofold. First, based upon a lot of feedback we heard from last summer, that there wasn't the conversation between your teens as to whether or not they should award their funds to a Jewish or a non-sectarian organization. This is a really important conversation that we want, and a lot of our camps want to be happening, but just by nature didn't take place because there aren't many Jewish nonprofits located within site visit distance of your camp. So this is a solution to hopefully encourage the conversation about which of these 2 areas should we be giving our funds to. Secondly, we also want to encourage a conversation about giving locally versus giving nationally, because that's another really important conversation that teens are starting to think about, is about which community specifically do we want to help? Do we want to help the people that are near us, or do we feel like we can help an organization that has a far reach? So if your teens in the Teen Foundation are interested in granting to these Jewish national organizations, then the summer educator will arrange either a phone call or a Skype interaction with a designated staff member at that nonprofit. We're still working on these pieces and working out which specific nonprofits we're going to work with. But we really want to make sure that there is contact beyond just reading the grant proposal and then the teen saying, let's give to that. So again, we're still figuring this out. We will cover this in depth with your summer educator. But because this is a new piece, I still want to take a second and pause for questions on this, bearing in mind that we're still working out the details of this. So if you have a question on this, right now you can press *7 to unmute yourself.
Hi, this is Yael again. I think that this is a great addition because for sure this step of the process was the most sort of confusing to tease out for our summer educator, and especially the tension between not having a Jewish local organization to represent because the kids had the space time with these local nonprofits that were doing amazing work. It was very hard to figure out how to insert that Jewish nonprofit piece into it. So I think that this is a really great and important step in helping sort of fill out the conversation in that way.
Great. Thank you, Yael. We want to think it's a great step as well, and I think we're really excited to see and hear back from your summer educators who do go in this direction, how this impacted the conversation and the learning with teens. So we're really looking forward to sort of collecting that information from your summer educators over the course of the summer and then relay that back out. So thank you. We're looking forward to it as well.
So we want to take a moment and focus on being responsible grant makers. Because we are teaching teens, it is especially important to be responsible in our dealings with the nonprofits. So it's really important that you as administrators ensure that your summer educator sends a notification letter to all of the nonprofits that they've been in contact with and that have submitted grant applications, whether or not they receive a grant from the teens. So we are offering in our program materials sample grant acceptance and denial letters, and it's really up to the educator to make sure and you to follow to oversee them to make sure that they send those notifications in a timely manner, and ideally to include the teens in sending those letters so the teens are learning how to deal responsibly with nonprofits. And why do we highlight this for you as educators? So aside from ensuring that the teens learn how to be responsible in this regard, the reputation of your camp really depends on that the nonprofits have had a good experience with you. And we know that this program, as we've heard from many of you, can help build relationships with nonprofits in your local community. And we want to help ensure that they leave with a great feeling about your camp. So we're highlighting this so that you make sure to be on top of the educators to do this in the course of their regular program. It also is not too early to think about how you can start raising your grant making pool beyond the $1,000. And as you're hopefully aware, JTFN has been offering these micro grants to camps for $1,000 for up to 2 years. So next year, you and your local community, having already received 2 years of grants, will likely have to carry this program forward without JTFN funding. So you can start thinking now about those funding opportunities, and I am certainly happy to help you talk through ideas during the summer or next year when you have a little more time. But in that vein, to share a few words, we will hear from 2 of the year-round professionals of Camp Solomon Schechter in Olympia, Washington, Dave Furman, Assistant Director, and Jeff Noble, Development Director. Both work closely with the Team Foundation there. And Dave and Jeff are going to share a few words about the work they did last summer to raise their grant-making pool and some exciting new developments for this upcoming summer. So Dave and Jeff?
Hi, this is Jeff Nobby from Camp Solomon Schechter. So last year, one of the things that we did was in our pre-session email that we sent out to our 8th through 10th graders, we let the campers and their parents know that we were running the Teen Foundation and asked every camper to bring $5 with them to add to the pool. And through that, we actually enlarged our pool by another $500. About a little less than half of that came from the $5 donations, and then we had an anonymous donor who brought the pool up to the $500 mark. This year we're changing it slightly. Last year we had the campers bring the money to camp and then got it from them once they got to camp. And either intentionally or unintentionally, many of the campers did not turn in their $5. So this year we are going to be collecting that from the parents at the buses before they get on to ensure that it doesn't get lost in the luggage. In addition to that, we also applied for an expansion grant through our Federation's Ignition program. They fund new projects and expansion projects. And so we submitted a grant to expand the Teen Foundation and received a grant for $1,250 to expand the program into our 5th through 7th grade session, and then also expand so that we have 2 sessions in our 8th through 10th grade session. And David, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I was going to say a couple things. So I think that our goal for asking the kids to bring in money at the beginning of this program as a summer was both to increase the grant pool because we felt like $1,000 is a little small, but also because we wanted them to get some buy-in and ownership over the experience. And we felt like we can make it a community effort to grant some money. So rather than it just being 10 to 12 kids doing the grant making process, it really was the entire summer camp, both the parents, the kids, the grandparents, some grandparents sent in money. Really it was a community effort to build this foundation. And because of that, I think really there was a lot more buy-in than we thought there would be. And then at the end of the summer when we presented large mock checks to the people, the entire camp was very engaged in the process. And they understood what was going on because they brought money and they contributed to it. So I thought it was a really good way of engagement as well as raising the grant making pool.
Great. Thanks to both of you, Steve and Jeff. Those are 2 perfect examples of two very different ways to raise the pool. And after this call, we're going to send out a list of some other fundraising approaches to fund your grant-making pool going forward, which include these two types of options. Terrific.
So we're doing well on time and a little bit ahead of schedule. So if there are people who have other questions, this is a great time to ask them. Those can be large questions. Those can be bigger implementation questions, or smaller specifics questions, because I know there's a couple administrators here that are new to the process. So we're just going to take a minute and sort of open the floor to questions that people have. And if you have an answer to one of these questions, feel free to jump in and also share from your experience last summer. So does anyone have any final questions at this time?
Is that Andrew?
This is Andrew, yes.
Hi, Andrew. It's Jared from Camp Kadima.
Jared, hey, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm sorry, I just sent you an email. If you wanted me to speak towards the educator component now, or if you already dealt with it, then sorry about that.
Not a problem. We would love to, if you want, to a couple words about it right now.
Okay, great. So we had, last year was our first summer. We're Camp Kadima. We're a Young Judea camp in Canada. Last year was our first summer to be part of the Philanthropy program. And one of the first sort of things that I considered was who would be our educator and our summer educator in this process. And for us, there was kind of a natural person to select in this position. And what we really, the reason why he was a natural selection is, he had grown up, he had been at the camp the last 6 or 7 years, and was now in a role at camp where he was a senior staff member in kind of our lead leadership team, and charged with managing a lot of the program components. But furthermore, he had a wide range of knowledge when it came to Jewish texts and values. Grew up at Jewish day school and was just very Jewish literate. So we know in that sort of realm of things he would be a great person to lead the program. In terms of his facilitation skills, he had close connections with a lot of these kids, and some of them were his former campers, and it allowed him to really easily facilitate numerous the sessions and learning teachable moments. They became kind of very natural, and these kids really looked up to him. We used our philanthropy program was for our CITs, which were our 16-year-olds at camp. And then finally, he, our educator really had a past experience as it related to grant making and also familiarity with nonprofits. He took a lot of interest in the Jewish community locally in Toronto, and actually took a class in college around philanthropy. So for us, it was kind of the perfect fit for an educator, and it was kind of very easy, but those were some of the skill sets that he had that really allowed him to flourish.
Great. Thank you, Jared, for jumping in and sharing that. I think that's a great piece to add now, because for the camps that haven't thought about it, this is the next step of really finding who's going to be that great person to bring this program to life at your camp. So thanks for sharing, Jared. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Again, if you have any final questions, either about the summer educator or nonprofits and grant making, now's a great time to share them or to ask them. Okay, I think if there are no questions at this time, I'm sure there will be questions with us in the future, and you know how to get a hold of us. So we're going to wrap this up pretty soon. The letter of agreement, I want to remind you, is due April 30th. Probably the best way to send it in is to sign it and then scan it and email it to andrew@jtfn.org. However, you can also fax it or send it by old-fashioned mail to the address on the screen. It's also in the email I sent you with your grant agreement. again, please have those in by April 30th. And that'll be the end of our webinar today. Thanks everybody for participating. Thanks especially to everybody who spoke and shared about the great work you did last summer and the great work you're going to be doing this upcoming summer. Please be in touch with Naomi and I if you need anything. Our information is right there. You have our emails, our phone numbers. You know how to get a hold of us. So as this process is going forward, please feel free to reach out and let us know how we can be helpful in any way.
Thank you, everyone.
The conference has been unmuted.
We're going to unmute everybody, so just at the end say thanks and everybody take care. Thanks so much for participating.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.